Picture this. It's 7:15 at night. You pull into your driveway. You turn the engine off, but you don't get out of the car. Not yet. Your family is inside. Dinner's probably on the table. Someone's wondering where you are. And you're sitting there, in the dark, with your phone in your hand, looking at your retirement app. The number went up today. It should feel good. It doesn't. Because somewhere underneath that number is a question you haven't let yourself ask out loud yet. Is this actually working? Am I actually getting closer to something? Or am I just accumulating a number that belongs to a system I don't fully understand? That question is exactly what this briefing is about. And before we go any further, I want to be clear about something. What I'm about to walk you through is not financial advice. It's a philosophical briefing. Talk to a real advisor about your specific situation. What I'm offering you today is a different lens, a way of seeing what you may have been too busy to stop and examine. Because here is what I think is happening to a lot of men right now. You are trading the best years of your life, the years where you still have the energy, the health, and the mental sharpness to actually use freedom, for a digital promise, a number on a screen that you cannot touch without paying a penalty. And nobody ever sat you down and explained what you were actually agreeing to. So let's do that now. There are 3 ways the system drains you. Most men only see one of them, usually the obvious one: the market dip, the bad year, the fund that underperformed. But the real leaks are quieter than that, and they've been running the whole time. The first one is time, and I don't mean that in a motivational poster kind of way. I mean it literally. Think about the deal you made when you signed up for the 401k. You agreed to give your money to a system that will hold it for the next 15, 20, 25 years. In exchange, you get a tax break now and access to the money later. Here's what that deal actually costs you. The years between now and later are not neutral time. They are your highest output years. The years where your experience and your energy and your relationships are all converging at the same time. And the system has those years on lockdown. You're not investing for your future. You're paying a ransom for a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. A version who is older, slower, and operating in a world you cannot predict from here. That's the first siphon. It's not taking your money, it's taking your window. The second one is harder to see because it looks like success. Most men who are good at their jobs have built a life that requires a very specific monthly number just to function. Mortgage, school fees, the car payments, the lifestyle that crept up while you were busy earning it. And the 401k is the carrot at the end of that treadmill. The reason you keep running. The someday that justifies everything you're putting up with today. But here's the question nobody asks out loud. If you couldn't access that 401k tomorrow, if it disappeared tonight, could you walk away from your job and still figure it out? For most men, the answer is no. And that's not a judgment. That's just the trap working exactly as designed. Because a man who cannot walk away is not a successful man. He is a well-paid tenant in his own life. The address is his, the mortgage is his, but the terms? The terms belong to someone else. The third one hits differently, depending on where you are in your career. Seneca wrote this about 2,000 years ago, and I want you to actually hear it, not just let it pass. He said, "Only time is ours. Not the money, not the title, not the account balance. Time." And here is the quiet reality for a lot of men who have spent 20 or 30 years doing everything right. You have built a paper legacy. Numbers in accounts, balances on statements, IOUs from fund managers and government tax schedules. But a real legacy is not a stock ticker. A real legacy is the ability to move, to act, to be present when it matters, to go silent and strategic instead of loud and busy. If your wealth is locked in a box you can't touch without a penalty, you don't have a legacy yet. You have a bill dressed up as one. Okay, so you understand the siphons. You know where the leaks are. Now let's talk about what you actually do. 3 protocols. None of them require you to blow up your financial life overnight. None of them are reckless. But all 3 of them start shifting the balance back in your direction. The first move is about liquidity. And I want to separate this from what most people call an emergency fund. An emergency fund is defensive. It's there for when things go wrong. What I'm talking about is something different. I call it the strike fund, and it's offensive. Here's why it matters. Opportunity does not wait for your penalty window to open. The right deal, the right business, the right moment to walk away from a job that is costing you more than it pays, those things show up when they show up, not on a schedule. Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." A man with 6 months of liquid cash is prepared. A man whose money is behind a 10% penalty wall is watching the door close while he does the math. So the first move is this. Alongside whatever you're putting into the 401k, start building a separate pool of cash that you can move without asking anyone's permission. 6 months of your actual living expenses. Not invested, not locked, liquid, yours. That's not laziness, that's leverage. The second protocol is about changing what your money does for you. Most men are sitting at about 90% paper wealth and 10% real wealth. Paper wealth is what you have on a statement. Real wealth is what pays you while you sleep. And here's what shifts when you start building on the real side. Every dollar of cash flow you build today is a day of your life you buy back from the system. Rental income, private business equity, a skill that generates high fees. These things don't ask you to wait until 59 and a half. They pay you on Tuesday. Wait, it gets better. Each one of those income streams is also a vote of no confidence in the treadmill. Because the moment you have income that doesn't require your physical presence, you are no longer a tenant. You are starting to own the building. The pivot isn't dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight. But it starts with one question you ask about every financial decision from this point forward. Does this pay me, or does this just grow on paper? The third protocol is the most personal one. And it's the one most men skip because it requires the most honesty. Here's the idea. Take 10% of what you were planning to send to the locked account and redirect it. Not to a different investment, to yourself. Specifically, to whatever makes you the primary asset. For some men, that's a skill, something you can learn in the next 12 to 18 months that makes you significantly more valuable than you are today. Not to your employer, to the market. A skill that generates fees based on what you know, not how many hours you show up. For other men, especially those who are closer to the end of a long career, it's ownership. A stake in something you actually understand. Not a fund managed by someone who has never met you. Private equity in a business where your capability is part of the engine. The underlying logic is the same for both. No fund manager can compound your judgment. No market index can replicate your network. The highest returning asset you will ever own is your own competence deployed with intention. 10%, redirected, every month, into whatever makes you harder to replace. You have 2 paths from here. The first one, you already know. You keep feeding the box. You keep running the treadmill. You keep telling yourself that the number going up is the same thing as your life going forward. And at 65, when they finally hand you the key, you find out what you traded for it. The second path is harder to start and easier to live with. You run the 3 protocols. You build the strike fund. You start the cash flow pivot. You redirect the sovereignty tax into the asset that no market can touch, you. And you stop measuring your freedom by a number on a screen that you can't command. Seneca spent years surrounded by wealth that he knew could be taken from him at any moment. And he came to one conclusion that I think about more than almost anything else he ever wrote. It is not that we have a short time to live. It is that we waste a great deal of it. The 401k is not wasting your money. It is wasting your years. The years where your grip is still strong, where your mind is still sharp, where the people who need you actually need you present, not just funded. The briefing notes are in the description. The 3 protocols, written out, with the steps. This is not about blowing up your financial life. It is about understanding the difference between money you have and money you own. Those are 2 different men. You know which one you want to be. Stay in formation.